Assalamu alaikum. Now I'm presenting my second paper after a tribute to Praveen Shakar. I hope that you would have liked it. So I'm waiting for your feedback and comments on that as well. So this is the paper also that I presented in Canada at IJAS conference, and this was also published in the journal. And I will give you the link on in the description so that you can actually access the full script, full PDF paper for further research if you want to carry on in the same field on post 9/11 fiction. So here's my presentation. Deterritorialization in the Wasted Vigil by Nadeem Aslam. Nadeem Aslam in this novel, The Wasted Vigil, is breaking the boundaries of trauma and loss raised around the 9/11 event by extending its tragic resonance across the globe. He traces the causes of the event by linking the separated and divided worlds of us and them, by forcing readers to see the victims and the perpetrators exchanging their roles in the course of history to serve the vested interest of the political power players. Mostly, 9/11 fiction revolves around the stories of the victims of the event, domesticating the tragedy, ignoring its global implications, while Aslam tries to trace the root cause of terrorism by questioning the role of the political power players in creating, funding, and supporting the terrorists, thus leading to the event that they are mourning over. The novel explores the destruction of Afghanistan because of Russian interest, American interference, creation of Taliban, and post 9/11 war on terror. The paper will respond to two research questions. First, how does the wasted budget manipulate the discourses of nationalism to connect global tragic experiences? And second, how does the text deterritorialize American exceptionalism that looks at this event in isolation? The discussion of the novel will explore its ability to deterritorialize American exceptionalism that looks at the event in isolation and relies on us and them binary. Literature review. In his analysis of 9/11 fiction, Richard Gray, in his book After the Fall, American Literature Since 9/11, argues that most fiction set in the context of 9/11 presents the insider view of the tragedy, focusing only on American perspective, treating it only as American tragedy. He contrasts the novels about family, home, and the domestic realm with those that offer a wider transnational and transcultural perspective, and argues that while the former simply assimilate the unfamiliar into familiar structures, the latter make encounters with strangeness and engage a strategy of deterritorialization, as they can break the boundaries of nations and regions, providing a better insight into the causes and effects of the 9/11 event. He demands the writer to present a more impersonal view of the tragedy, considering its global implications. In the chapter Imagining Crisis, Gray explores examples of writing where crisis is approached more holistically. He admires the use of the technique of deterritorialization in the works like Twilight of the Heroes by Deborah Eisenberg, The Reluctant Fundamentalist by Mohsin Hamid, and Netherland by Joseph O'Neill, because they successfully try to bridge the gap between nations and cultures, past and present, personal and public, domestic and transnational, by enacting Homi Bhabha's notion of interstitial perspective. Instead of focusing on 9/11 and American tragedy alone, they present collective trauma experienced by all the parties involved, both the perpetrators and the victims of violence and terrorism. According to Gray, these novels have the potential to provide an intercultural connection and issuing from this the possibility of social transformation. The wasted budget invites the readers to analyze the causes of the event, It reproaches all the perpetrators of violence, may they be Taliban, Afghanis, British, Americans, or Russians. It spares no one of the responsibility of the tragedy of 9/11, tracing its roots in the history of war struck Afghanistan. Instead of creating binaries, the novel tries to break the boundaries by inviting all the involved parties to recognize their faults and move towards a workable solution other than war. Aslam tries to direct the attention to the plight of the people who have been labeled the sinister other, their misery and the cause of their misery, thus leading to the readers to reflect on the 9/11 event as an outcome of a long standing conflict. Aslam tries to provide his readers with a holistic vision. He is not ready to confine himself to one perspective. Therefore, he brings in a Briton, an American, a Russian, and an Afghani man, two Afghani women who are already dead as main characters to present a multifaceted image. The New York Times writes in its review, this novel is more expansive than his previous ones, documenting several decades intensely and several centuries tangentially. It seeks to reveal the psyche not just of one rural village or one immigrant community, but of Britain, the Soviet Union, the United States, and Afghanistan. Mudassar Altaf Bhatt writes in his article, Counter Hegemonic Discourse in the Wasted Budget. After 9/11, American government has declared nothing less than a global state of exception to the occasion presented by the war on terrorism. The phrase war on terror provided US government enough freedom over time and space. Aslam presents American justification to wage war on terror in an incident in which James tortures an Afghan boy, making him blind. He justifies this violence. I did what needed to be done, David. These people have been trained in how to survive interrogation techniques. For some of them, true jihad starts at capture. So we have to be extreme in our actions. Wasted Virgil is a story of collateral damage and a collective loss of the main characters and the countries they represent. All the main characters, Marcus, who is Britain, David, an American, Laura, a Russian, Katrina, Zameen, and Dunya, who are Afghanis, stand as much as persons as representatives of their countries. Afghani women are the most helpless characters in the novel, as the most brutal things happen to them. They represent Afghanistan at the mercy of Russia, Afghan warlords, Taliban, and now America, receiving nothing but destruction from all sides. The novel takes us into a narrow, bleak world of war, where art, music, color, fragrance, literature have no place, and where the light of reason is swallowed by the darkness of fanaticism, where feelings of love are destroyed by religious dogma, and where experience of loss and suffering is the only experience left for human souls. This is the justification that America used to invade Iraq to destroy weapons of mass destruction that could never be found. Later, the invasion continued, and the stance that justified it was to restore democracy to Iraq. Same plea is taken to justify militancy in Afghanistan. Aslam narrates the century-long saga of Afghanistan war, war against British colonialism, civil war, Russian war, Talibanization, and American war on terror to argue that war is no solution to the problem of extremism that America wants to curb. Afghanistan is paying the price for the geopolitical and economic interest of the historical power players. Aslam says in an interview, I wanted to explore and record all of that in it. Adam Mars Jones writes in his review, Nadeem Aslam sees the reasons for fundamentalist misogyny as pragmatic rather than doctrinal, the simplest way of giving vulnerable, uneducated recruits a sense of power. The presentation of Taliban is a critique on the misinterpretation of Islamic ideology to construct a jihadi narrative that has nothing to do with true teachings of Islam. The extremist vision is constructed by the clerics, sponsored by national and international power players, to use the local youth as cannon fodder to fight against Russian and then US. The Islamic laws are twisted, misused to implicate the personal enemies, to maintain one's dominance in the regime. The religion is used as a plaything. The youth at the mercy of Taliban is brought up with partial, one-sided narrative with no choice or chance to have first-hand access to the teachings of the religion in whose name they are sacrificed. To conclude, the wasted Vigil successfully looks beyond the borders and boundaries to present the shared experience of pain and trauma, and to stress the shared responsibility of all the nations involved. Marcus realizes that the West was involved in the ruining of this place, and Katrina stresses the problem of ignorance and illiteracy of Afghanis to the extent of becoming complete barbarians. Engaged in a century long war, the country has been cut off from all possibilities of getting education and making progress. British, Russians, Afghanis, and Americans are all responsible for this terrible state of affairs. Capitalism is as expansionist as is imperialism, communism, or terrorism. Any doctrine in its extreme becomes a dogma and, as such, a danger, a threat. So, that is the message of the wasted budget, which tries to or invites the attention of the readers to look at the event holistically and to consider the collateral damage happening on both sides of the globe. So this is just a presentation based on my detailed paper, and I'm just going to give you the link of my paper in the description. Hope you have enjoyed it. Stay blessed. Bye.